This is a story about a crackerjack newspaper reporter. So I was slogging my way through this book of murder reportage, murder after murder, with some serial killings and mass murders tossed into the mix. So it really was a long, brutal, bloody slog when I came upon an article that A.J. Liebling wrote for the New Yorker in 1955. He used a murder as an excuse, really, to write about something else, which was the fierce and vivid competition for readers among newspapers in New York City later in the 19th century, 1897 to be exact. The top two dailies at that time were the New York World, the World and the Evening World, and there was a hot rivalry there too, and the New York Journal. The Worlds were on the top, run by Joseph Pulitzer, but hot on his heels and gaining fast was the Journal, owned by William Randolph Hearst, captured so magnificently by Orson Welles in Citizen Kane. A body wrapped in oilcloth was discovered in a river by some boys who were swimming on a hot day. When unwrapped, the body was a torso, headless, legless, unidentified, and so terribly mysterious, and therefore tasty, irresistible fodder for the tabloids. Extra, extra, read all about it! The next day, more of the body, wrapped in that same oilcloth, was discovered. Glory be, but the head, never. Liebling lovingly describes the activities and lurid reporting of the newspapers during a time when it was the very heyday of the rags, and the best thing you could be in that burgeoning city, other than flat-out filthy rich, was a newspaper reporter. Reporters competed with the cops on every story. The cops tailed the best reporters, and reporters kept a sharp eye on the best cops. Liebling focused on a young man named Ned Brown. His father was an editor, but he was a first-year medical student who made a bit of money as a runner for his father's paper. Brown was fresh from an anatomy class. When he saw the torso, he saw what the cops, the doctors, and the reporters, all crackerjack men, had missed. He examined the hands, and adding up very specific details, decided that the corpse had been a rubber, a masseuse, in one of the many Turkish baths in town. Fueled by that suspicion, Brown went from bath to bath, getting rubbed and asking if a big, strong rubber had missed a turn. And in this way, he found his man. Using a remarkably resourceful ploy with fragrant bars of soap, he gained entrance to the exact apartment where the man had stayed, a lady's place, naturally. He swiped a picture of the deceased, and with it tried to convince the senior reporter in that area that he was on the right track. By that time, 3 or 4 days in, there were many tracks, each one claiming that it was the true path. As Liebling wrote, Roger Reitmeiler and a platoon of other reporters were working with the police, and Ike White, the world's famous lone wolf star reporter, was working against them with a squad of special undercover agents. Fred Sturdivant, a celebrated rewrite man, was welding the gross, crude script into an artistic whole, and the circulation department was having such a picnic that there must have been a substantial psychological resistance to Ned's story, with its possibility of putting an end to the frenzy. And the frenzy, much more than the crime, was what it was all about. The frenzy was calculated precisely in newspaper sales. The world brass was eventually convinced that Ned Brown had the goods, so they ran with it and laughed and hooted at the other papers, and for his sensational scoop, Brown was given a $5 reward for a job well done. He did not return to medical school, instead chased stories for the rest of his life. I was recently thinking about the demise of newspapers, and so it was especially invigorating for me to read this top-flight account of another era by A.J. Liebling, when newspapers ruled the roost. The murder was tawdry and dark. The investigation by Ned Brown was exquisite, ingenious, and radiant. Murders sell papers, but a good story is sniffed out by a keen, observant mind and some nifty, diligent footwork.